Hi, my name is Chanel, and this is my video out. Hope you enjoy. I grew up here in New York City, born and raised all my life, with the exception of 3 small years that I went to spend in Dominican Republic in my teens. And how was it like? Oh my God, it was. I always hear people say that they had this childhood, and I never remember having a childhood because my lifestyle was so different. And maybe not so different, but for me it was. It was very much school, church, home, school, church. That was sort of like my life, and the only time I was only able to really go out was like pretty much if it was a church function. Like if it was going to somebody's wedding, somebody's sweet 16, somebody's baby shower. If it was part of the church, I was in there. So that was my life growing up as an adolescent and as a teen. I taught kids catechism, confirmation, communion, so I was even an altar boy a couple of times. So that was basically my life because I did it with pride, but I did it because it was a way of me to just be out the house. I've never felt like a gay man. I always felt a woman since the age of 5 years old. So when I decided to transition and not tell my family in the beginning, then it was when I moved out and sort of went into hiding for like 5 years. I was hiding from my family. I was taking hormones on the low. I was transitioning. I mean, when I would go see my mom or I would go see my grandmother, I would dress in like sort of masculine, feminine clothing. Old Navy was the bomb for me because it's very gender neutral clothes. So that's what I used to wear, a lot of gender neutral clothes to go see my family. But when I left and I went home, it was very much put on the hair, get the nails done. And there was times that I just wanted to be like that month, that I would just stay away from my family. And it gradually started happening where I ended up just staying away from my family, where it ended up being like 5 years, right? And I stood away from the church because growing up as this young adolescent, being so active in the church, and at the time growing up, I heard how people would talk about other people who identified as gay, let alone not even trans. I didn't even know that the trans world existed until I bumped into a friend of mine years later, or I met someone at a club. That's how I knew about the trans world. I didn't know nothing about the trans world. And to transition and be in the church, it was going to be hard for me. Coming from a strict Christian family from my mother's side, and then coming from a machismo family from my father's side. I mean, I'm Dominican, and if you know Dominicans are very much, raw. But, so I just had to get away. I just had to get away to do my transition in peace. And of course, at some point in time, I was gonna have to come out to my family and tell my family that I am no longer the person that you saw growing up, that I'm a totally, entirely different person. And so that day was kind of hard because my mom started crying. She thought she failed. She made it about her, but it was like at the end, she was like, oh, I'm never gonna be the mother of the groom. It was all of this, right? So I told my mom, I said, listen, you might not be the mother of the groom, but you'll be the mother of the bride. I said, and it had nothing to do with what you did. This is who I am, and this is who I've always been since I was 5 years old. Even when you used to catch me in the room, putting on your heels and putting on your hair nets, thinking it's my hair, or when they thought I was in the bathroom for so long doing you know what, but in reality I was playing with my mom and my grandmother's makeup and going into the laundromat and taking out the sheets and wrapping it around and doing it and acting like it was a dress. So I was in the bathroom for hours and they were thinking other things, but I was actually living my life, living my truth in the bathroom at like 10 years old. I kept it. The most important people to me is my family, so that's who I came out to first. I didn't feel the need to explain myself to people I grew up with in the church. Some of them that saw me grow up were a little hesitant and a little, not accepting. And they would tell things to my grandmother. My grandmother would be like, well, you know what? That's who she is. That if she wants to be called Chanel, then we have to respect her. I have to call her Chanel, so that means everybody has to call her Chanel. So it was a little, it still pulled me away from the church because of that situation. I did go to the church one day, but it was so awkward. Even though everybody was like, oh my God, you look so pretty, you look at it. But to me, it was very awkward to like, that little young adolescent who did all these things in the church come back as a whole full-fledged woman, so yeah. It was, my mom was okay, everyone else seemed like it was okay that moment, but yeah. My mom was very much, I was okay with the whole gay man thing, but being a woman, and then I had to explain, well, I was never a gay man. I never felt like a gay man. I was very feminine, as a boy, yes, because my trait was acting and thinking like a woman. I am definitely my full self around my family. It's amazing not to live a double life. So I can imagine how people that are living a double life must feel, because it's not easy. It's not easy because you want to make your family and your friends you grow up with happy, but in the run, you're making yourself miserable. So it's like the double life. I sympathize with people that are going through this situation, whether they're a gay man and can't come out to the family, or want to be a woman or want to be a man and can't do it because they're afraid of the rejection. They're afraid of like what society is going to say. And, and I see you, I hear you, and I love you. And you're not alone, You'll get through this, because it's an amazing feeling to be able to live in your truth, be yourself. So I'm going to keep it away from politics because we all tend to gear towards federal. But let's leave that alone. The biggest issue that the community face, it's really acceptance, because a lot of these organizations also, they say, yeah, we're for the LGBT, but a lot of them is just for the money, right? And you go to these agencies and you have no representation of what you're claiming that services you're providing, right? So for example, if you're providing trans care, why are there no trans people in the clinic, right? And you're providing trans care. Or why are you providing counseling for the gay man who's never been out to their family, but no one is gay, and so that's what I mean. Why, like, the biggest is acceptance. Equity is a big one. It's hard to find jobs, especially if you're trans. I mean, I can only speak from a trans point of view, and it's harder for someone who's trans to be secure, not only financially, but mentally and emotionally, and to have housing, and to be fine like anyone else, right? So that's the biggest barriers that the community face. Hire trans people.
Yes.
Yes, hire trans people. It's not gonna kill you.
Yeah, it's going to make you better.
Probably. If anything, it's going to make you much better. Your organization is going to be diverse and inclusive, and you're going to have more clients. If a trans person can't find a job because no one wants to hire them because they're trans, the only thing you can do is do survival work. And survival work, we all know, is not the safest. It's not safe for a cis woman. It's not safe for a trans person. These Johns out there who are murdering trans women of color, that we face these type of crimes and this type of hateness because we're in harm's way. we have to make money to survive. We have to make money to eat. We have to make money to pay for that roof over our head. You know, that I used to do sex work myself. I'm no better than anyone else. I know what it is to be a survival person in the streets, living in abandoned buildings, not having nothing to eat that day and figuring out where you're gonna stay. So, you know, I'm blessed. I've been very blessed, and I'm even more blessed that I landed a job like this. But you know, I'm blessed, but I hurt still for my sisters who are not as lucky as I am. Never stop trying, because the moment you stop trying is the moment you give those that say you couldn't make it the power, basically. Because I was told many times I wasn't gonna make it as a trans woman, and as a trans woman I needed to sell my body to be who I wanted to be. And that's my advice. Don't let anyone steer you the wrong way. My favorite part about being me is me. Pretty much, it's me. I'm my favorite part. Why? Because I get to live my life the way I want to and be happy about it without having to be in the shadows. And look at me now.